Bé, bona tarda. Comencem la sessió de la tarda. Espero que us hagi anat de profit el dinar i que us hagi agradat.
When we started to organize this seminar, we were thinking about two possibilities. First, we thought about how to come back after lunch to make it a nice transition, and at the same time we also wanted to offer the opportunity of not having only a unilateral direction of communication, but rather to get other people to send proposals and show us other things. So, Albert Sierra, who has been the curator of this seminar, and I would like to use this opportunity to thank him for his work, he made a call. He had this wonderful idea of making a call for proposals of video clips so that people would be able to send their proposals in an audiovisual format so that they could be presented today. We received about 30, and an experts group have selected 10, between 10 and 12. It's going to be brief. The conditions to participate was 1.5 minutes. Some of them have been therefore compacted, so we will begin the afternoon session by trying to offer a voice and a space to those who have sent their proposals with these video clips that will be played back to back. So should I press play?
No, aquí está. Un moment.
Again. Que no surt encara?
El problema és que no es veu aquí res, no, el projecte. Ara sí, ara sí.
A night visit to La Pedrera, an immersive visual show with video mapping in the terrace, in the Warriors Terrace as we call it.
Nomadic Somali people walk great distances, never staying in one place for too long. With each move, they take all their belongings with them, their animals, their possessions, even their homes. Imagine you had to carry all your belongings with you. What would you take? We would like to invite you to spend some time with a nomadic family, to see the objects and hear the songs which are part of their everyday lives. To find out more about these and other Somali objects, please visit nomad-project.co.uk.
El 25 de gener de 1939, Sant Just d'Esvern va ser bombardejat per les tropes franquistes.
Molts ciutadans de Sant Just, en sentir els bombardejos, es van espantar i van córrer al refugi a buscar protecció.
Aquest refugi ha estat tancat durant molts anys i molt poca gent sabia de la seva existència.
Després de 80 anys, per fi, el refugi de Sant Just obre al públic.
Vine a viure una experiència en 360 graus per conèixer les nostres històries.
Imagina't que tens un edifici històric molt malmès, una església cremada al 36 i restaurada després sense els mitjans ni els coneixements necessaris. Imagina't que finalment has trobat un patrocinador i que un gran equip de restauradors...
Imagine you found a sponsor and a big team of researchers have found the way to give back its old splendor to that building. But the restoration will take a few years, and in the meanwhile, your wonderful Baroque frescoes will be covered by the scaffolds. And during that time, the believers which attend the church service will wonder, was this really necessary? So you really need a story that would neutralize the first feeling that parishioners would have, and that enhances, first of all, restoration tasks, the daily working of the building, and this artistic heritage which will be only partly recovered. That's what we did in San Juan del Mercat Church. We gave the temple a voice. We let the temple express the pain of the losses it suffered and the happiness of renovation, as well as all those emotions linked to so many years of history with its ups and downs, because emotion generates empathy, and empathy is what then brings to knowledge. Anoia, Human Towers Land. Welcome to Anoia Roots, Anoia, the land of Human Towers. Is a fascinating trip to medieval Catalonia. 1,000 years of history told by its protagonists. Download this app and start your adventure at home.
Si les pedres parlessin, en revelarien secrets amagats de tot un imperi mediterrani.
If the stones were to speak, the stones of our castles would tell us about all the warriors and the landlords. So experience this. In each castle you will find the way to go into the facts. You will become unique spectators of this past made of intrigue, fights for power, and lots of experience. This is the best way to move into the medieval Catalonia in the land of castles.
Sí. ¿Tú quedas aquí? Jo em quedo aquí, ja. No quedes allà? No, perquè em presentes ja aquí. Jo dic quan aquí.
Ja veieu que jo vinc del rotllo de les escèniques i tal, i això no ho hem assajat.
I come from performing arts, and clearly we didn't rehearse this very well. And the Oscar goes to Damien. Well, I am in charge of the second part of the session today, so we have a panel of speakers. We have them here on stage already. We'll hear them, one after each other, and then we'll have questions. I use the opportunity whenever I have a mic in front of me. Being shy is useless, is pointless in life. We are not here on top of the stage because we are shy. Ask questions. You don't even need to speak it out loud. Just write it down. It's so sad for the speaker if he has no questions or she has no questions. Please don't make us feel embarrassed. Please dare to ask your questions. Okay, having said this, after these videos that you didn't actually applaud that much because I thought they were very good. Anyway, we will hand over to Damià Martínez from the Catalan Cultural Heritage Agency, new storytelling and new proposals. So lots of questions afterwards. That's what I expect from you. Thank you. Thank you, Marisol. Probably you thought I would never come back again, but here I am. Anyway, with a different hat. It's not my project, but it's a group project. Here I am to present it. And by the way, all the videos that we've received and the videos that we chose were very relevant indeed. They are all in our YouTube channel. They're on our YouTube channel, so don't hesitate to consult them. And yesterday I mentioned Albert, but of course all the team in public programming, I would like to mention them because they've done a great job. So otherwise this wouldn't be possible. I'll try to keep it brief. When we were organizing this seminar, we wanted to use the opportunity to show also what we do, some projects that have to do with new storytelling and that we've done in the Catalan Cultural Heritage Agency. We've chosen a few. If you are not acquainted with our agency, let me tell you that we are a publicly run entity that manages with assets in Catalonia, cultural heritage in Catalonia, also elsewhere. There are a series of monuments that are part of the buildings and the sites that we take care of, and a part of the task is centralized in Barcelona. You have a list here on the screen, but I only will refer to these three organizations: the History Museum of Catalonia, the Art Museum in Girona, and the Department of Monuments and Sites, because then later on you will have the chance to listen to Joan Muñoz, and he will be mentioning the Archaeological Museum in particular. So, very quickly, I have only 15 minutes and lots of slides, so let me mention 7 projects. I tried to group them together under 3 typologies because this is new storytelling as applied to heritage with the help of new technologies. Some projects are very tech-intensive, but the content is secondary, the discourse is secondary, and in other projects the balance is interesting between ICTs and a new way of explaining things. And in other examples, I'll share some examples with you. I think it's interesting because we use technologies that are not that new. They're relatively old or classic, we could say, but the approach and the willingness and the storytelling behind, as applied to heritage in this case, this is new, this is fresh, and I think it's interesting to take it into account. Here's the first project that I wanted to share with you. It's about the use of high tech to do something that's interesting, quite fancy, I should say. It's not, it doesn't have the content associated yet, but it opens up windows of opportunities. It's the reconstruction of one of the female figures in the art painting, wall paints in Cogul, in the area of Cogul. So, series of figurines of different times that have been added every now and then. So this is an area in Cogul that's difficult to access, easy to access, but difficult to observe. Not all these cave paintings are easily seen, so you have to go there at a certain time of the day with the right information, with people that know where to point to. And one of the ways to show them was the bidimensional tracings or calcs, so that we could best see all those drawings. This is a group of female figures that I was referring to, and to the left, that's the object of my presentation, which is a reconstruction, 3D reconstruction of a figure of a woman that's painted on the wall. It's part of those cave paintings, and we've added the volume. We've interpreted the volume, of course, but the result, the outcome has been very interesting, and this opens up a different window of opportunity. It's another application has been the 3D printing, the printing of a 3D model of this female figurine, and this again opens new possibilities. So again, I'm just summarizing. That's very quick, I know, but this is going to be uploaded on our YouTube page. Here's another project. It's an audiovisual project called Atanagrum. The idea is to explain the Spiegel site, very interesting place in Catalonia, and it's done in a very interesting way. If you go to that place, you'll find there the remains that you are familiar with. The remains of an old mill at a place called Spiegel. So to understand the history of that town, we commissioned Albert Marsal, an artist, a painter. He's collaborated with us before to do this, and after a research project, we commissioned a series of drawings to that artist, and with the production team, we animated them. So that's quite classical. It's a cartoon, so to say. But the starting point is a drawing, high quality, very rigorous drawing that has helped us reconstruct a story. The shepherds would take their herds to the fields. You could hear the goldsmiths and the craftsmen working their clay. That's my family, that's my town, that helped this town grow for many, many springs. We were fortunate, and gods and goddesses would smile to us, and it rained, and the wells were full of water, and the earth gave us incredibly tasty fruits and food. This was our new home. Our great-great-parents also rebuilt many places and had sewage ready for us. So the city would grow, and many people came to see it. There was wealth, but there was a threat on top of our heads. There was a tense atmosphere with intrigue, with rumor, with accusations, different groups confronting each other. But beyond our disputes, there was a danger that was alive. Powerful forces were preparing for war. From the south, people from Cartago were approaching us on those animals with incredible tusks. And then the Romans from the other end of the sea, the river, would separate the two forces, and we were right there, right at the center. Well, if you're interested for further information, go onto our website or visit the place. Go to Spiegel. Nice exercise I think the video is very interesting to, become acquainted with the area. And those are the teams involved, people from our agency and the different creative people, illustration, animation, very, very important task apart from the script itself. It's the way of telling things and making use of a technology that's not nothing to write home about. I mean, it's not that complicated. Third project, along these lines, a new project that the History Museum of Catalonia is working on. It's an animated history of Catalonia, and that's the thing. Infographics that are very fashionable in the social media to explain conflicts, and it's a new approach. It's fresh, it's clear, and it helps explain complicated and complex periods, sometimes long periods in the history of Catalonia in an agile manner. And that's the idea, to recuperate the memory of these times. We've had 2 episodes prepared already, and there's a series of episodes coming up soon. The idea is for this project to be part of the permanent collection, and it'll be posted on the social network. The new Catalonia was a pathway for different civilizations that left their footprints. The Greek population, the Phoenicians that created their maritime routes as of the year 700 before Christ, and that's how new knowledge and new habits were become known to us. Empúries is one of the most important harbors in Catalonia. You can visit the remains of the old city. They would trade with many towns in the Western Mediterranean basin. The Iberians that had advanced techniques in farm and stock breeding. They mastered iron. The small Iberian towns adapted the shape of a city with paved streets, marketplaces. They even had their currency and their writing, their own writing. 219 before Christ, the Roman army disembarks in Empúries. They would stop the different rebellions, and then they settled in the Iberian Peninsula, to which they gave the name Hispania. So the whole peninsula was Romanized, adopting the lifestyle, the culture. They would pray to the same gods, and it was the beginning of different languages, including Catalan. This project explains, in a simple manner, the history of Catalonia, and here are the credits that are behind this project. Project number 4. The Art Museum in Girona has these 2 medieval pieces of stained glass window, and the project actually is entitled The Art Behind Stained Glass. It's about explaining artistic techniques of high quality, and in this case it's about explaining how to prepare stained glass windows or pieces. The sound is not ready yet. It'll be incorporated later on, and that is also another example that I wanted to share with you. In the process, I'm just giving you a hint, just a brushstroke, and then of course you can check it online if you're interested. Go see the place. You see the production of glass and how it's painted and how lead is added and how everything is welded, and the different phases of the process. In this case, I don't think it's an extraordinarily new project, but the quality with which it's been produced and the details and the fact of having Anna Santolaria in the team, she's an expert in stained glass, this has yielded great results. Another project number 5, along these lines, explaining heritage, also belonging to the Art Museum in Girona. It's about the altarpiece, Saint Felix altarpiece, an audiovisual product. This goes back to the Renaissance times, and that altarpiece was part of a big ensemble. It's really difficult to really understand how huge it was. The master died earlier than he should have. That is the date, creation of the altarpiece. 1 year ago, Joan de Borgoña was commissioned to do this job, and working with him, I've learned to prepare the colors with oil, and not just with egg yolk. We described episodes of the life of Saint Felix, martyr. the detail with which he depicted clothes and figures as if he wanted to portray the soul of those people is fantastic. Now we've been okayed and the altarpiece is ready, so let's hope that everybody finds in it what they were expecting to find from the bottom of their hearts. So I just ask for this. I've overcome many catastrophes, and hopefully this altarpiece will overcome whatever the future generations hold for it. In 1936, the altarpiece was dismantled and is now kept at the Girona Cathedral. I like the ending because this links well with this idea of empathy and emotion. It's not just about understanding the pieces in the museum and what their formal intention is, but also the historical path that has taken the piece to be part of the permanent collection of the museum. And at the same time, this generates a more positive experience on the part of the visitor. Project number 6, the Art Museum in Girona. I have 2 minutes left, 2 projects left, so I'll speed up. This is a project that incorporates gamification, we should say, with modern technologies. It's a game. The title is Let's Play Hide and Seek. And it's a game that you can play in the different rooms of the museum. Last but not least, we've added this one last minute, and I'll try to summarize this project that belongs to the Department of Monuments and Sites. Haven't heard Tim Powell this morning. This really has a lot to do with many projects mentioned before. You woke me up from my sleep. You listened to my voice. Now you need to judge whether my work was good or bad. This is an activity that has been organized in the Santas Creus monastery, and it's now programmed for the summertime based on Stefano Maria Cingolani, the historian. It's a reenacted visit scripted by Felix Pons. He's also the director of all the production. And it's highly advisable. It's the royal path at the Royal Monastery of Santas Creus here in Catalonia. You'll find all this information on these sites: Patrimoni, History Museum, Girona Art Museum, and the web of the Monument and Sites Department. Thank you.
No totes les preguntes ara, no. Les preguntes van després.
Questions at the end. I think that was clear, right?
Aquesta tarda us avorrireu de mi.
This afternoon you're going to get bored of me. Damià is looking at me, but anyway. Now we have Joan Muñoz from the Archaeological Museum who will tell us about the digital strategy of that museum. All yours. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me, Damià as well, many friends from the agency, all the people from communication and media who are there. And thank you for being here at this time of the day. You started early at 9:30, so congratulations for staying in. Talking about these strategies, the title is maybe a little bit grand. I will not talk about all the digital strategy of the History Museum of Catalonia, but I will focus on the latest projects, including ICT projects, but we will not talk about the website or the social media or many other things that, if we put them together, would compile all the information and communication technologies, the ICT proposals. I will begin with a few concepts. They are large enough so that you can read them yourselves, but this is a way of explaining that the Archaeological Museum has discussed and has thought about how to approach a complex archaeological heritage to citizens who are more and more used to more technology and have higher expectations about what they want from cultural centers and museums. So, through technological tools, we are able to come closer to what visitors expect to find in a new museum, be it an archaeological or any kind of museum. And these projects will be done by adding value or creating value. We are not going to create a technological resource just to be fashionable, because today we have this fate and tomorrow we will have a different one. So we would like to see these technological resources to add value to the conveyance of heritage and to experience creation. We're talking about experiences. It's the buzzword, and we would like visitors to leave the museum with a brief idea that what he or she did in the museum was useful, enjoyable, and especially that he will come back, because all kinds of experiences which cause a flood of visitors into the museum. But if then their experience is not positive, these people will not come back. So we need to generate expectations that will lead to further visits, to repeat visits. After these general concepts, let me go over the last 4 years of experience in the Archaeological Museum of Catalonia and the virtual projects that they have carried out. It has 5 venues, so these projects are joined for all of the venues. You will see projects from Empúries, from Ullastret, from Barcelona, from Olèrdola, and from Girona. So those in charge and the curators and officers in each venue have their own very important role. And here I am acting only as a conveyor belt that is bringing the Olèrdola or the Empúries projects to you. So let's have a look at the projects we can submit.
Aquest és el darrer projecte que hem fet.
This is our latest project. 360-degree video clips trying to achieve something that you will quickly understand. This is like Star Trek. Many archaeological museums are collection museums. They have objects, but you don't see the archaeological sites where these objects were found, and pictures will not help you understand that. So what has the Archaeological Museum done? We have tried to find locations, archaeological sites or places where the museum has exposed its own heritage in the cabinets, and through this 360-degree headgear, we are trying to make visitors understand where the artifacts were found. And this is a new resource. This is something that did not exist in the past. That's what I meant when I was talking about using new technologies for these purposes. Another resource we've done is a huge video clip on the wall. It's the Circus Museum. It is in Barcelona. What have we achieved with this? This is a partial piece that had many loopholes and many missing parts, but we have given life, we have brought it back to life. Now you can see it in full digitally, and we have enriched it to make it more easy to understand, so that people understand what this mosaic is trying to explain. To develop the project, we had to analyze how horses walk or run, or how to make the sound of a whip. And we had to find all the information about all these things. We also had to work on this project, as you can see up there, in the immersive room in Ullastret. And we also worked on the furniture, sometimes for usefulness or user-friendliness purpose. We sometimes miss on that, but we need to offer something that is safe, sustainable, durable, and low maintenance. And that's what we have sought in our projects. The piece of furniture you see to the left, says the speaker, represent this idea of studying the technical user-friendliness of digital projects. Empúries. This is another project. It's one of the first projects we started to offer an interpretation of the Ullastret site that would be much more interesting for visitors. And we have these 360 degrees goggles with VR, and this huge project has generated an added value to something that did not exist when you visited the site in the past. So it does create value. This is the first project we started. This is the first one. Albert actually was partly in charge of this project's development. It's the first one created, and I have decided to select a small fragment, not so much to explain the project, but rather because I'm so interested in this quote by the person in charge. One of our main concerns is that research has increased our knowledge on the two sites. We now have a clear theory of what these places were like. He talks about research, and he's saying, hey, be careful, these are extremely interesting and important projects, but if there's no research behind that would allow us to develop this knowledge, it's going to be impossible to bring our citizens any validated knowledge, any validated content. So research is essential, and our colleagues, researchers, site officers, everyone involved, all the stakeholders are essential to develop this kind of projects. Otherwise, we would simply be trivializing the contents we intended to present. We've seen the projects which are related to long-term shows, but we also have temporary exhibitions, and we have a policy for that. Here we see an interactive game created for the Dredge exhibition. This was a very long project, a very important project, and we used that for the temporary exhibition too. And now they have this, it's still in place until late November. It's in Ullastret, it's on Charles the Great castles. We will also see other projects. These kind of projects mean you need to research and then you need to reinterpret the findings. This castle does not exist. So unless we had such a tool, it would be totally impossible to explain one essential part of the history of Ullastret, which is more known because of the Iberian ruins. Then we also have 3D objects. Someone was here from Sketch Fab. This has been developed for Sketch Fab, and this is useful because it helps us raise the profile of a number of objects which are locked in a cabinet. Now you can see the object from many different angles, and you can also get researchers who are not in residence or on site can observe objects that are out of their reach in general. This is a project that was developed by the Archeo Network. Ana Garrido is around there, and I think that she managed to find 200 or 300 pieces, and we are one of the most important museums that has uploaded part of their heritage in the Sketch Hub platform. Dissemination, education, goggles are used for that too. We presented the 360-degree goggles at the education trade show, and we made a survey with over 300 people to see what their expectations were and what their feelings were after using them. And well, that was very useful in terms of what how we can adapt the video clips and the explanations. Here is a list of all those projects that we could have submitted in my talk, but I will not mention them all. The medieval castles was one of them. There was also a big recreation. Then open internet courses. We, for instance, can visit the Olèrdola, Pla dels Albats area, and then we also have e-books. I think we are the archaeological museum that has the biggest content in e-books. It's not PDFs. It includes they include videos, photographies, interactivity, and so on. And what are our ongoing projects? We are developing this exhibition, which is going to be long-term, Ars Musivaria, and will be shown in the Archaeological Museum in Barcelona. We intend to show the large collection of Roman mosaic and to create spaces for virtualization, including, for instance, some homes where we can show the lives of those who built the mosaic. Very often we focus so much on the mosaic, but it's interesting to see who could pay for the creation of a mosaic in their own homes, what they lived like, and so on. So we are going to reconstruct the life that people led in those areas. We're about to finish. Let me tell you about this. All resources which are integrated in a digital strategy bring uniqueness to these museums. They create identity and they improve, they enhance the archaeological experience, which tends to be complex. Unless you are a great fan of archaeology, it is really difficult to understand things beyond objects as artistic elements. The ICT dimension of the Archaeological Museum is very useful because archaeology teaches, inspires, and moves us.
Quan un representant del Museu d'Arqueologia parla de Star Trek,
when a representative of the Archaeology Museum speaks of Star Trek, freaks, nerds like me know that we're exactly the way the place we're supposed to be. Now, Albert Sierra, you know him, of course, because he's like the father of this all. Albert will talk about the digitization project. So it's your turn, Albert, so you better do this right, huh? Good evening, everyone. Hopefully the computer will work now, as in any technology. session, of course, technology fails. Luis comes from the General Directorate of Cultural Heritage, and I come from the Catalan Agency of Cultural Heritage, so we work in coordination. It's like we are sister organizations, and we're going to talk about a project, two projects actually, that have to do with 3D modeling. The fact of getting 3D models from the Catalan heritage, that was done for the first time in 1992. It was with the Mapping Institute, the Cartography Institute. They took some images of the door at the Ripoll, and some posters were published even, etc., because it's a monumental gate. It's the portal, the entrance to the church, and I don't know if you will recall those huge boxes with binoculars. That was the device they used, and some surveyors were drawing the 3D model. That was back in the day, and now this has made a lot of headway, a lot of progress in the past few years. The fact of generating architectural 3D models, also 3D models based on objects. The techniques are different, you see, because it's photometry for objects and laser scan for architecture. That's very useful, because the software itself is more affordable now. The computers had to be highly specialized in the past, and now you have a gamer computer with graphic cards that can move millions of triangles in fractions of a sec. That's very, very powerful. So it has a huge impact on the 3D world, just like YouTube in the world of video. To publish a 3D model on the internet, or before Sketchfab was a reality, it was impossible. And now you just upload a file on Sketchfab, and it works fabulously well. And every month they publish their novelties, so it's really, really very, very good. And now's the time to find a place for heritage as a sector, as an industry, also embedded in this new technology. So that's why we are here to talk about these two projects. First, I will hand over to Luis on behalf of the General Directorate. He will talk about architecture and archaeology, and I'll focus more on museums and objects. So he goes first. Thank you. As an expert in laser scan in my department, we would like to describe the relation between the 3D and architectural heritage. So the first thing we need to check is the purpose behind our department: protection, conservation, growth, research, and dissemination. So we protect the heritage so that the current generation and future ones may enjoy it. So this is the A, B, C, D, E, and they share all in common the graphic documents, because that's key to classify them. In our Catalan service, we have been graphically documenting the monuments. In the past, we would go take the measurements with our hands, and we would use the rotring pens. That was terrible, probably you remember, and you know what I mean. Then we had CAD, we could draw on the computer so much more easily, and we could use laser devices to measure distances of documents in 2D and 3D, but those were subjective documentations, because we didn't know about the rest. We just knew about the data that we collected and we could measure. But now we have 3D documentation, and with the technologies, photogrammetry and laser scan, we have total and integral information. We don't invent anything, we don't simulate anything. It's totally objective, so it's very important. The service, our department has clearly believed and firmly believed on our digitization project. Of course, this was mentioned by Albert. It's a good time. It's only timely. The cultural department is very, very engaged, so they've made investments in servers and software so that these 3D models can be then uploaded onto Sketchfab. We have our case studies, so success stories, and that is also why. And the fourth pillar is the potential, because we need to try to involve everyone so that everyone can work with 3D, and it needs to have broaden its use potential, and that is clear in our success stories. Let me mention this Romanesque church at Vall de Boí called San Joan de Boí. We had the 2D documents, but that was not enough, so we wanted to go 3D, so we did a laser scan inside, outside, and we got to a model like this one you see here. That's the outside with the color texture that the laser scan gives us, and in the inside we could see the paintings, and the museography proposal could be more rigorous, of course, and you can actually get in there and submit your proposal. So that was presented not that long ago. We wanted to know whether we had the cloud spots, the spot clouding, and it's good that this technology helps us in this respect. Santa Maria del Mar, the Gothic church here in Barcelona, we needed to do an intervention in the ceiling, in the roof, 33 meters high. Of course, we couldn't see a thing, so laser scan to improve the plans, the floor plans, the ceiling plans. So we created this photo ortho imaging, and we did sector by sector because the team of architects could really fine-tune what the project needed to be like, so that they could optimize time and resources. Escornalbo, it's a castle and monastery. We had classical photography, and we had these documents that was fantastic, but we wanted to know the degradation, and we can see that in some cases there was a lack of material, and we wanted to see the cloud points, and the idea then was to think what we wanted to do with this. We've done an inventory of the cloud points to then place things back and to their place, and that's a new use that we have. And that is what moves us forward, because it's really, this technology is really here to stay, and it's really very powerful and very, very useful. We worked also at Cogul with these cave paintings at a rock called Roca dels Moros. We wanted a 3D model of the walls of the cave, and with the laser scan we could best distinguish the paintings, because you can see them now and see with the different intensity of the data in the laser scan. We have the figures now appearing, the figures that Damià described so well before. So all these cases took us to thinking about creating a digitization program to create a 3D model of all the monuments that are under the care of the regional government of Catalonia, to create a database of these 3 models for everybody to use and consult in a database, in a server that's easy to make available to the public or all those stakeholders that have something to do with the restoration of these monuments. So it's about daily use of 3D, not just for the museums. You see what I mean? Everybody needs to know what 3D means and is. This is a large scope program, digitization of all the monuments, 19 to begin with, Sant Pere de Roda, monastery ensembles that are huge, and there are some others that maybe are not that big, but we have this deadline. It's 2019 till 2022. That's our term, and we are clear in the sense that 3D is the present, it's not the future, and we need to make it available for everyone. That's our message. We want to reach everybody. So my neighbor wants to visit Santas Creus, so she can do it on a video and walk inside the church, and the architect needs to have the 3D volume to best optimize his time and his work. The lighting company needs to have a 3D model to work on. The historian can access this information from home, see what he needs, and then make the most of his time when he needs to do an intervention there. So we, as 3D technicians, need to make the society aware of this and really submerge itself into this technology. It paves the way, eases everybody's job, and helps us enjoy our heritage, which is so important and so huge and so fascinating. And that's it, because otherwise Albert will kill me. Thank you. You see, Lluís' job has much to do with what Lynn explained in the morning in relation to Scotland, just like they went to Mount Rushmore. Where are we going to hang Lluís from? From the highest bell towers in Catalonia? Where is he going to be left hanging to get those images and to get the right picture and the right beginning? Now, of course, just joking. Now, in parallel to what they're doing in the realm of architecture and archaeology, we ourselves this year are starting with a new project about 3D models as applied to museum objects. In this case, we've done this based on photogrammetry. We don't resort to laser scan, not necessarily. You saw that on Sketchfab. So we take pictures from the different angles of the same object, and we wondered the uses of 3D in a museum. Joanne mentioned this before. For documentation purposes, it's the best thing to use a 3D model that's so accurate. Also for conservation purposes, we have here in this room 2 or 3 people that have indeed used this to have a mold of a mosaic from the back and then help support it better, to measure the conservation status of some pieces in the field of education. That's also a resource that may be easily implemented, because when on Sketchfab, this can be accessed from any computer or a smartphone. It works very well on the cell phone. For communication purposes, we can share this on the social media, social networks. So it's a new, very attractive, appealing way to get heritage closer to the society. And concerning the new immersive storytelling, going back to the beginning of our day-to-day, for a video game, for instance, or for VR experience to incorporate elements that have to do with heritage, we need first the 3D models of that piece of heritage. If we can create a database, a base of 3D models of objects, and that's easily available, it'll be much easier for companies, institutions, businesses to then generate their own immersive experience based on that. What is our goal behind this new 3D program? Hopefully in a few weeks or maybe 2 months tops, we will be able to speak about this in more detail. And the idea is to coordinate all the organizations that are working with 3D in Catalonia, professionals, museums, restoration artists that are working in parallel without coordination so far. So we want to train the sector, to train the industry. So ideally, all of the museums in Catalonia should be aware of this technology, but not just knowing that it exists, but we would like them to value and consider how they can incorporate this in their workflow, in their daily job. We want to develop some standards that help museums be sure about the fact that whatever they are commissioning is correct and can be used. We want to also disseminate the concept internationally, to promote it in education, to teach new technologies. We will cover this period, 2019-2021. We will publish the models on Sketchfab, Creative Commons license, as open as possible for everybody to use. It will be published on patrimoni.gencat, and it's not just us, the agency, but it's open to all the institutions, organizations that have something to do with heritage in Catalonia. We will organize workshops with different museums, and the criteria for the selection of objects, I mean, we cannot cover hundreds of thousands of objects. We want to disseminate the use and the power of this technology. So it's like a window case of what's most diverse, intrinsic quality, the capacity of being part of a consistent storytelling, so not isolated pieces, but pieces with a story behind, territorial dissemination and distribution, and a balanced representation from the Iberian peoples to date. Here, the dress of Margarida Xirgu, the dress she wore when La Rosita opened. It was a play, performing arts, very important in Catalonia. Also here we have a display cabinet of the Ethnological Museum in Montseny with all these different tools used by goldsmiths, and we are very proud of this job because it's comprehensive really. And the third component, part of what we are doing now, is this piece, Villalbí, the first motorbike ever manufactured, produced here in Catalonia. What else? There's something that we are very proud of, which is we've gathered together scattered ensembles. We have an agreement with a museum at Erill, Laval, and the idea is to scan all these pieces and present them together at the National Art Museum in Catalonia, Manac, and other projects that are on the way. Here are the organizations with whom we have started to work together, and that's it, because my time is up. So thank you very much. Okay, red card. Okay, I got it. Thank you. That's it from me. And let's move on to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Star Trek i Rotring en el mateix trosset.
Star Trek and Rotring pens in one session were amazing. I got very excited actually myself. So here I am. I think we managed to raise 3 questions. So we have some time for that, for the Archaeological Museum.
Pregunta tricky.
A tricky question for you. Have you ever done any assessment of the before and after? Have you increased the number of visitors, not only from a quantitative but also from a qualitative point of view? Are visitors thinking that the experience is better or worse? The answer is a bit complex. We have, well, there are a number of resources that we had time to show, others that we haven't been able to show. We started 4 years ago. We know that in Ullastret the quality of the visit is much higher now because people understand much better what those remains mean. So the quality of users' experience has increased hugely. For other resources, it's still too early to assess it, but let me mention something that people at the reception of the museum told me yesterday. They were saying, Joan, people come up and ask us about the goggles. Where are the goggles? So I guess this is a beginning because it means that, well, the information is in people's mouth. It's too early to assess some of the other resources. Empúries is a little bit different because things have improved there hugely. It is a varied, diverse product. People, I don't have accurate data on the audience and how much it has increased, but I would dare to say that the quality of that visit has increased substantially.
Com que hem fet bloc i aquí ningú diu per qui són, aquesta
Let me throw this question to you, and you can think about who should answer this question. It has to do with families. To what extent would you say that technology...
Aquí pregunta l'acollida, per tant, hi vagin més, els agradi més, s'hi sentin més implicats...
Will are families more involved? Do they believe that it is better? I guess, I don't know. It's not children probably only, but rather the elderly or their wealthful families. Any proposals that you would like to underscore? Either from Catalonia or from abroad? If I had the money and the resources and as much as I could, I would like to make this proposal addressed to families. What would you do if you had all the money in the world? Let me answer. Let me try and answer, if you allow me. I think one of the essential priorities is to find ways to make heritage attractive to all audiences, and families are one of the targets we have, one of the clearest targets, and all this exercise of increasing the use of technologies and finding new ways of explaining heritage has a clear purpose, which is, well, to understand and to address the groups that you want to make heritage more attractive for. I have many examples that come to mind, but things that would be interesting to bear in mind are those things that have to do with gamification, with being a little bit more casual, less serious, of course having a scientific approach to heritage, but also adding that possibility of giving it a more playful approach, especially thinking about families and about children.
Hola, sí.
Yesterday, with Tim Powell, we organized a workshop in Santes Creus. And one of the first slides he showed said, never start with technology. Otherwise it's fundamentally flawed. So we should not ask if technology will help us attract families and children to heritage, but rather we should think about experiences which are adapted to families and which may or may not include technologies, which may or may not be gamified, which could have a storytelling, which could have to do with building or constructing a world. And once we have that experience well defined, then let's see which technology fits better to convey that experience to the audience. So technology is not the beginning, but rather the end. And that's how it might end up working well. If we start by saying that we want to do a VR experience, then we will have to do reverse engineering and think what works for that to be useful. But I think that the right way to think is what can work well for a family, what are the dynamics between parents and children, between siblings, between the mother and the father, and how that relates to heritage. And based on that, let's choose whatever technology we like, which could be a piece of paper or some VR goggles. But that's something that, a choice that we'll have to make at the end. I think Albert has gone to the crux of the matter. We went, I said, to the education trade show. We did, I don't know how many experiences and shows with VR. It wasn't families, it was other kind of people, but we saw that there was a clear age split. Children, meaning kids below 10 years of age, were inside the goggles and they were moving their arms, they were touching things, they were inside. Then there was this middle age bracket which looked at the thing and they enjoyed the experience. That's what we saw. I understood, I liked it, I saw, that's what they said. And then the elderly focused on quality and they said, the image is pixeled. So we need to think about them. Each person will enjoy the experience differently. So we need to think about the fact that families, well, what is families? This is an environment of participation, so we will have to see how they will enjoy the resource. I think, well, you can't even imagine how many questions we're getting. It's so funny, it's so nice to see them coming in. 2 requests for information. So concise, precise, and to the point. 1, Concha Livingston, I guess. The database with 3D digitization of heritage, is it open source? The intention is for it to be open source when we come to the end of the project. Right now, it's not open. Data are not open. So Raúl Rubio from Captai, the basis is Sketchfab, but for larger 3D models, will it be a unique, a private platform? No, it's architecture. We're trying to do Sketchfab. One comment, Sketchfab publishes very reduced models of what we are doing. We are doing high-quality models between 40 and 140 million points or triangles, I don't remember what it was, and based on that, we reduce the quality up to 50 or 100,000 points, which is what is published by Sketchfab. High-resolution models are always available at Patrimoni, GenCat, or at the institution in the case of objects in different museums, and they have their high-resolution copies for any scientific use which might be required.
La pregunta que surt sempre quan fan...
Oh, that is the typical question for a press conference. Budget. How much is to scan a document? How much does it cost? Just to have an idea about the price. Well, we cannot quantify the cost because a monument, how much does it cost? That was the question. So we cannot tell you exactly how long it will take, like 50 hours to scan this monument and this will cost X. We cannot say because part of the resources that should be paid, should be part of the price, is part of the staff. So that was the answer. The 3D models available in Sketchfab, the assets are shared in Sketchfab. How can we check whether those models are really faithful to the real piece or the real asset? There are a series of codes on Sketchfab for coding purposes, lights and shades and different display tools, but the model you can download and you can use in your display, the device that you want to use. And if you come from photogrammetry, there's a color correction always made before processing anything, and from a colorimetry point of view, they're correct. Of course, when you want to publish and you want to reduce the degree of resolution, of course, you lose detail as well. But there's always this commitment, and you need to reach a compromise what you publish and the reality. Of course, we try to strike a balance, and we want the quality to be the highest possible, and the idea is so that it can travel the internet easily, but we always have the high resolution model to which you can resort, always. And for printing purposes, it's the same. The Sketchfab files can be printed with if the format is small, not one-to-one, but if you go to the high-res model, then you can. Let me add something else to this. And the world doesn't end with 3D. Pictures will exist, photographs will exist, so it's good to double-check other data. The image will always be there, and I'm so sorry, the piece is also there, the real object. So if you want to have a look, you go and take a look at it. So the tool really gets us closer to the piece, but the other results exist. Do I get a red flag or anything? Because I can carry on. Okay, I'll continue. This is kind of a Sierra-style question. Is the mapping dead? Has it died? I don't know. Josep Font, who asked this question? It's not dead, of course not. The mapping technology, long live micro mapping. Oh, that is quite a sentence to open the new seminar. Do you think, that is the next question, do you think you are competing against Google? I don't think so. I hope your answer is no. Yes. Somebody said yes. You see how ambitious we are in this country? Well, believe it or not, want it or not, we're on the same plane. I mean, you start your cell phone and there's Google there and a million more things. So we're there. It's the same stage for everybody. They're giants. Yes, we're tiny, but we're there. So we'll get closer and closer. That's what I believe. Joanne, should I stop? Okay, let me ask two more questions. I was looking for you. Okay, two more questions. Joanne, these surveys that you referred to of the education trade show, what was the intention to perceive the return for the youth or what? Well, we wanted to conduct these studies, these surveys, just to use the resource before installing it in our museum. The goggles were loaded with 5 videos, in one case 4 videos, in another one, so that we could test, try all the videos. If you go to the museum, in every station or desktop, there's only one, so one video per spot. So it was a general survey to know about the functionality of the device, whether it was user-friendly or not as user-friendly, and then we would ask questions like, did you like it, did you not, would you change or add anything? That was the kind of question. And many people go to the education trade show, and we couldn't, of course, have them with us for many minutes, so just a few. And we have some data, sociological data, demographics, interesting, because that was the idea, to test the system before installing it for good in our museum. Great. Final question. Let's try to solve it. A list of companies that can offer these things. I think that you can upload this and think about maybe sharing a document for the audience, people who are motivated and want to be motivated. The rest of the questions, I'm so sorry. The questions about sites, archaeological sites, accessibility, these people have to leave. Terribly sorry. Let's call it a day. Thank you.
Aquí estem, no? Tu i jo? És que on són ets?
Que estava aquí, era mana, però ha marxat.
Vale. Intentaré. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Your name is Eric Lernerstad?
Yes.
Lernerstad? How do you pronounce it?
Lernestål.
Lernerstad. And the name of the palace is Hallwell?
Hallwell.
Hallwell?
Okay. Thank you.
So, segona taula, se'ns ha perdut el Jordi Celles, que hauria d'estar assegut allà, no? Ah, no, Jordi, tu no. El Víctor?
The moderator. I just thought we should have somebody else on the stage. Anyway, no problem.
Lernestål.
Sorry, but, my Swedish is inexistent. Not bad, no. Okay. We can, make an exchange. Tenim ara l'Eric Lernerstad del Palau de Hallwell, d'Estocolm.
Thank you. technical pause. Yes, there we are. Hello. My name is Erik Lernestål. You did good. I'm a photographer and I represent the Statens Historiska Museer in Stockholm, Sweden. It translates to the National Historical Museums. And we have a bunch of museums under our wings. We're actually the largest government agency for museums in Sweden. But today I'm going to talk about one of the smaller museums in our family, the Hallwyl Museum. My notes are gone, of course. Sorry. There we go. Sorry. The Hallwyl House is located in the center of Stockholm, and it was built as a winter home for the immensely rich couple Walter and Wilhelmina von Hallwyl, and was completed in 1898. This palatial residence is now one of the city's most eccentric and engaging museums. And behind the facade, the 40 rooms stands as an unique testimonial of the late Victorian period in Sweden. However, the museum is quite inaccessible to people that are not able to walk the many stairs throughout the house. So in the fall of 2017, we launched an accessibility project with the aim to digitally lower that threshold, or at least try to. So it's something wrong with this presentation, I'm very sorry. Yeah, I'll just wing it. My notes are gone. So, with the photogrammetry, we decided to scan all of the first floor staterooms, 10 in total. And for the task, I used a simple consumer camera array, 4 cameras. You only need one camera, of course, but having several speeds up the capturing process, and it makes you look way cooler in front of your colleagues. So here's the basic scanning routine in one of the rooms. And then I use reality capture to create the models, and look a little bit like this. Yeah, and then I put the models on Sketchfab, like that, and we use the built-in features in Sketchfab to add annotations and links to high-resolution images on Wikimedia Commons, and to articles about materials or artists that worked in the house, creating the house, on Wikipedia, and just to create this thing where visitors can immerse themselves even further into the history of the house and the people who lived and worked there. So to date, the The rooms on Sketchfab has had over 158,000 views. But compared to how many visitors the actual museum has in a year, which is about 150,000, that's pretty good by our standards. But the really interesting figure here is how many times the models has been downloaded, because with all of our other image content that we have over 55,000 2D images available as free downloads under CC BY license on Wikipedia or Wikimedia and Europeana. We, of course, allow the same on Sketchfab, where you can download all of our models for free. And the room from the Halville House has now been downloaded over 17,000 times, which is more than a 10% download rate. But where do they all end up? So almost instantaneously after publishing the first models, we started to see reuses on the internet. And here's one of my favorite to date. It's Thomas Flynn from Sketchfab, who downloaded all the models and put them all together into one model, simplified them and optimized and published them on his own account, and also put them on top of this original floor plan, which you can also download on Wikimedia. And it really makes for you can really see how the floor is laid out, which is you can't do on the individual room models. And to see more, when we started seeing all of these reuses, I started Googling a lot, just Halville Museum, 3D, Halville Museum, VR and stuff like that, and there's lots of hits coming up. And one day I found this.
Hello, where's it going? I found the Unknown Sound Museum the other day, so I really like introducing it for you. This museum named the Hollywood House. It built in 1898 at Stockholm, Sweden. Let me see. Shall we dance?
What the heck, right? So what was this? So I Googled some more, and I found that someone had downloaded all of our models, uploaded them, and created a world on something called VRChat. VRChat is the largest social VR virtual reality platform out there right now, with more than 4 million registered users. Some of you maybe can remember a platform called Second Life back in the day. This is Third Life, maybe. And I Googled some more and learned that this world was created by someone called Tiger Chips. I still only know this person as Tiger Chips. He or she wishes to be anonymous, but I've managed to come in contact with them, and basically said that they liked what they saw on Sketchfab, saw the potential as a world on VRChat, downloaded it, and just got to work, which is fantastic. So here's what the VR world that Tiger Chips has created looks like when you load it, and you You can do this through the online gaming platform Steam on an app there that's called VR Chat. And this is the world that Tiger Chips created from our models. So basically it's the same models, but he has added glass in the showcases, and there's lights and fires and candlelight and stuff like that. And this is just a short clip of myself exploring the world in desktop mode. So you can, at the start, you can pick up a candle like this, and then they've added all our annotations from Sketchfab as well. And you can sit down in all the furniture, and from that perspective, you can get a totally different view of the rooms that you're not able to get as a ordinary visitor to the physical museum. And this is a clip of not me exploring the world in selfie mode. And I took precaution and muted the sound. This is a woman speaking Japanese. And I don't speak Japanese, so I just if she was saying something inappropriate. And, and we started seeing a lot of tweets, people or visiting the world as their avatar and posting selfies on Twitter. And it's all in Japanese. Yeah, and sometimes it's really crowded in there. As you can see, here's another one that I like. Scrolls down, more avatars, and hello, Abe. Yeah, so it's just a lot of it out there. And to date, the world created by Tiger Chips has had almost 60,000 visitors, and combined with the over 158,000 visitors on Sketchfab and the 17,000 downloads, this equals this becomes the most digital, the most successful digital production ever to come out of the Halville Museum. And I think it's a pretty good example of the power of open data. If you set your assets free, the community will use it and give back. And the last twist to this story is that we are currently exploring a way to host our own guided tours in this world that Tiger Chips created. So there's a way to create your own custom avatar, and the guides at the museum, they use historical clothing, so we can create a guide similar to them. And we're working with one of the guides now, trying this in VR, and see if we can find a format where we can do guided tours. Because together with VR Chat, we can host an event. So, for example, we can say that 2 Thursdays from now at 9 o'clock, let's meet up at the in the Halville world for a guided tour. And that's what all these tweeters are talking about. They're setting up meetings and stuff like that in the Halville world. Yeah, so if we get this to fly with the guided tours, we've actually reached out so far with this production that we're almost poking ourselves in the back in a way. Yeah, thank you. This is a link to my Twitter, so there's more to read there. And thank you so much for having me.
Víctor López acudeixi a escena. Ara parlarà el Víctor López Manchego, que és el director
We will hear
científic
from
d'Espanya.
Víctor López Manchego, who is the Spanish director for Global Digital Heritage.
Moltes gràcies per la invitació a l'Agència Catalana de Patrimoni Cultural.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the agency, Damià, Albert, thank you very much. I came here to talk about my book, as some authors say. I'm sure I will be able to talk about my book. And my book, in this case, is entitled Global Digital Heritage, GDH, from now on. As it's been mentioned, I'm the scientific director of GDH in Spain, and I cover the international collection department of the museum. Global Digital Heritage is a United States organization based in Florida, and we collaborate with different researchers from different countries. Mainly the link is between the US and Spain, and there is another group of researchers made up of scientists from different countries, different places where we have collaboration agreements. That's the mission of GDH, which is from a perspective of a non-profit. We would like to document and monitor and preserve our cultural heritage in the global scale. You see, we're quite ambitious, if we put it this way, but truth be said, we are working along those lines. We have a contribution from private funds, private donations, companies in Silicon Valley that help us and allow for us to really be that ambitious. That's the leitmotif behind our work, democratization of science and culture. We would like to turn cultural heritage into something that is accessible, free, for all the citizens inhabiting planet Earth. That is the goal, that is the purpose, which per se is noble enough, and it's difficult to develop. But we have this concept that's well rooted in the United States. It's not the case in other places in Europe or in other countries, which is philanthropy. So when people ask me why we do what we do apart from having this approach, I usually use these two images, and this morning we saw them as well. It's important to have them in mind. The National Museum in Rio de Janeiro, in 24 hours, millions of objects just disappeared, caught in fire. Maybe in the future we will be able to digitize the objects with greater quality, or maybe not. It's not the case for this museum, and of course we could say something similar with the monuments. Maybe we can go back to Notre Dame and scan it. Maybe not that part anymore, or not the way it was. So we need to be aware of the risks, the dangers, the threats for our cultural heritage in all the planet, and it's not the issue whether the countries are developed or developing, or it doesn't matter what resources that they have. All the cultural heritage in the planet is endangered, and we develop our tasks in different parts of the world. From 2016 to 2019, we took action in these countries that you see here listed on the screen. So we've traveled the world a little, as you can see, and this list is increasing. We're adding names more and more, insofar as we have the possibility or we are requested to help, requests from different authorities that ask for our help when it comes to digitizing in 3D their cultural heritage. One of our main working lines has to do with monuments and places. That's what we've worked on for a long time, mainly, and we've worked in places that are huge, as is this case, this castle, chateau the La Roche-Guyon in France, near Paris. It's a huge medieval castle that's been turned into a Renaissance Baroque palace. It was the headquarters of the German troops in the Second World War. So and it was filled with tunnels. So it's a giant place, and it's required lots of time and resources. Very ambitious project. And together with the sites, we also work with monuments and places that are more humble, smaller, maybe not that well known. In some cases, monuments and heritage that for some reason is endangered. In Spain, we are opening a way to work with the heritage stemming from the Spanish Civil War. In some regions, it might be felt as endangered because not everybody has understood that this is heritage and this is a place that needs to be protected and conserved. We work with air photogrammetry, mainly also terrestrial photogrammetry and laser scans. This is our machine, and it's a consolidated technology. So along these lines, it's not that we try to innovate from the point of view of technology. We use the technology that we have. Sometimes we combine them in different ways, or we use the technologies with slightly different purpose. And we then obtain models like this one here. This has been uploaded on Sketchfab recently. It's Santa Maria de Melque in the province of Toledo, here in Spain, made up of over 10,000 photos, air and terrestrial photos, and 152 scans. So this has led to this model, outside, inside, very, very detailed, with the use of reality capture, capturingreality.com. They're one of our main partners nowadays, and this technology allows for us to do things that we couldn't do in the past. We worked with different software, so we can now work with such volumes of pictures, photos, or scans that were just not possible to deal with. It is possible now, though, and we can even handle volumes, photography volumes of 30,000, 40,000 images for the same document, and higher numbers of scans than the one you see here. So this opens up lots of possibilities that just were unthinkable not that long ago. Among our tasks, it's important, and we've seen different possibilities and the potential behind these technologies and what we can do with the digitized cultural heritage, monuments, artifacts, objects. Here, this is just a grave, a tomb in a cemetery in Portugal. We're working on this project now, and in this case, we just use some Mesla applications. We worked on this tombstone, and we can recuperate some inscriptions and details carved on the tombstone, and it's being used for researchers. So far beyond this idea of getting heritage closer to citizens and conserving it for the future generations, it's for research and historical research purposes. All these models we also have uploaded onto Sketchfab, one of our main partners as well. You see here a detail of a shield at the Vélez Castle in Murcia in Spain. We digitized it with the help of a drone because the area is very remote, difficult to access the place, and we took pictures very close to it with a drone 4 or 5 meters away from the shield itself, and then we could digitize this image. We took the image from a short distance. People usually use drones to digitize landscapes or take air shots from far up, but we take technology to the limit, and we prove that technology that is existent and consolidated in the market can be used differently, in a way that not many people had maybe thought of. So short scope photogrammetry with the drone in an area that is very, very difficult to reach. Literally, we also use spherical cameras, Insta360 degrees to take spherical pictures, quality spherical pictures. So we generate documents that supplement our 3D job, and the potential from the point of view of communication with the public is very powerful because Facebook supports these 360 degrees pictures, and we've tested with time that the interaction level is very high with these pictures, much more than the degree of interaction that the audience have with the 3D model. So we use this as a hook, if you want, as bait, so that people come closer to heritage, come closer to the 3D models that we are uploading for everybody to see. This is the second pillar of our work, and I'm greatly involved in this. It's the museum's collection, and we've opened this division a year ago, not much and not much more, and we've worked in different countries under different conditions with small objects. Here is a warehouse in United Arab Emirates, and also sometimes we've worked in real time in the exhibition place without having to close the museum to the public. We've used photometry, and it's not a disturbance or a nuisance for the organizations. Museums are concerned about this, and we understand, but we also try to respect this and the reality, the daily routine of our museum, and of course we don't want to be any obstacle to that. We also work with large formats, and these pieces require a different way of working, direct photos in this case. Very important to measure the light conditions, because lighting is everything in the photo shoot, and photogrammetry is the #1 technique to digitize all the collections. So, as I said, we try to upload everything onto Sketchfab just to see the ambition level of our project. I brought just a glimpse, because sometimes figures are confusing. The Archaeological National Museum in Spain has 30 models accessible on Sketchfab available. The Catalan Archaeological Museum has about 100 models there accessible and available. The British Museum has over 250 different models uploaded and accessible and available. And we, right now, are coming close to 600 already, 600 models on Sketchfab, and about 400, a bit more, are specifically pieces that belong to museum collections. So these 600 pieces account for 0.5% of the total volume of heritage cultural elements on Sketchfab. And since all our models are for free and they can be downloaded, then we will be talking about 2.5% of the models on Sketchfab are being fed by us, by GDH. In the next year, we would like to double the figures from the point of view of percentage and also from the quantitative perspective. But of course, the amount is not only the important thing, but quality matters as well. Nearly every month, some piece that we digitize is in the top 10 for Sketchfab, because they publish every week their top 10 models. So nearly every month we have at least one piece listed in this top 10 rank that Sketchfab publishes weekly. This is a small bone carving from the United Arab Emirates, and a few months ago that was selected as part of the top 10 rank. And 2 weeks ago, this church at Santa Maria de Melque, that model that we produced was also published on the list. Top 10, again, it's relative, this idea, this notion, but just to say the quality matters, and we, of course, want to strike a balance between quantity and quality. Albert was saying so. That is the key, because we are at the precise moment. It's possible to really strike a balance, quality and quantity-wise, and there will be a turning point in terms of mass digitization and how many assets we can upload there for the citizens on Sketchfab in this case, but anyhow on the internet, and that's the reality right now. That's where we're at. We are always concerned about training, so we involve students so that they travel with us and help us, and of course with our models we can do so many things. They can be downloaded for free, it's open code, so you can print it or you can view them with augmented reality or use whatever format you wish. You can check our website, also have a Sketchfab page, and we're on Facebook if you're interested, so please feel free. If you have a minute, go check us out and learn more about what we do and our ambition. Thank you.
I acabem el bloc amb la Sonia Hernández, directora del Museu.
And we will finish with Sonia Hernández, who is the director of the Museu de les Aigües, the Water Supply Museum.
Hola, bona tarda a tothom.
Good afternoon.
Moltes gràcies a
And I would like to thank the Catalan Heritage Agency for allowing us to share with you this extremely privileged program, and we're very proud of being here. I would like to tell you about something that is a bit different from what we have been hearing all day long, and that's what we were asked to present. We were asked to present our experience with new style of storytelling that does not belong to the digital world. We've heard a lot about
de no començar per les tecnologies, de no
starting
començar pel format, de no començar pel
not with
llenguatge,
technologies, but
sinó
elsewhere,
pensar a quin públic et vols adreçar,
starting
què vols explicar i després buscar la fórmula bona
by thinking about who your target audience is and then trying to find the right formula to reach out to them. And the first thing that I would like to explain, and maybe we are not a very well-known museum, and many of those who are here probably have not visited it. I also know that some of you have been there because I see lots of known faces, but to give you an idea, we are in a heritage site, as you can see. This is a water collection and water pumping facility. We pump water, fresh water to the city of Barcelona. It started working in 1809, and it's still being used. So this is a living history heritage site. Sometimes it's not easy to explain what do we do. We ask our visitors to take a very long journey over time. Sometimes that's very useful because we know that history and understanding how things were done in the past shed some light on how we do and how we will do certain things. And at the same time, we have an environment, as you can see here, that includes diverse architecture, heritage architecture, and it is surrounded by a garden which is also heritage. A heritage part of this. We have a historical manor house, an industrial garden that we preserve, for which we still have the plans and the layout from 1860, the vegetation, the park, the flora, fauna, and some fruit tree orchards that reflect the agricultural past of the region. And I wanted to describe this a little bit so that you can get an idea of what this was. Because the setting is not a minor actor here. This setting is part of the histories we would like to invite our visitors to participate in, and it's also useful as a game board, as a game setting, because it invites to storytelling experiences or gaming experiences, and sometimes, well, both
Per què aquest tipus d'experiències?
Why are we thinking about this kind of experiences? In the last few years, since 2014, we have engaged in a number of processes to listen out to what people around us would tell us. Museum professionals, water treatment professionals, audiences, schools. So we listened out to what they wanted to say, and we heard lots of interesting things which we've used as guidelines for a number of things. And we've tried to respect these ideas so that the result of our strategic processes would take them into account. This has shaped some of the values that need to guide our activity, values, concepts, and words. Everyone tells us when we listen to our stakeholders, everyone tells us that sustainability needs to be one of our values. 25% of all the water which is used in the metropolitan area of Barcelona comes from this venue. So sustainability needs to be one of the values, and we actually comply with that. Emotions. People are required to be touched in their emotions. Being scientifically rigorous. Otherwise, the danger is to play around with this and to be so attentive to the game that we lose sight of the scientific background of this. Critical spirit, innovation, cooperation, the local context, as well as experimentation. All these keywords that I mentioned, which are of course a very, very brief summary of a huge amount of work that we have tried to condense to try and understand who we are as a museum. Based on this, we started thinking about the activities that I would like to present to you. I would like to share a first experience that has to do with the digital world. This is an app we built in 2015. This was the result of a hackathon. I don't know if you know about hackathons, these gatherings of professionals coming from different worlds, designers, engineers, developers, and so on, museologists, who get together, and as we understand, and part of our DNA is the fact of being innovative, our environment sees us as a museum which should be innovative. In 2014, 2019, we organized a hackathon, not so much to produce the result, but we found that we were doomed to do that because it was so interesting. It was so wonderful, and this fantastic app came out of that hackathon, and I think that some people who helped us in this are here in this room today. Gamification, storytelling are the methodologies for this app. You download it, you can download it at home. This is something we've tried to use as a formula. So starting playing before you come into the museum, you can start some of these games in the social media, you can download the app and you can start playing at home. And this is an app where you embark on an adventure, the idea of those books where you're supposed to live your own adventure, and you choose different results and you build upon what you do to create your story. It uses the language of comic, cartoons. You interact with the characters in this cartoon, you move around in the cartoon, and this is based on a beacon technology that are beacons which are located around the museum, and they trigger different parts of the story. And we did that thinking about young audiences. I guess that we all share the idea that this is the most coveted audience group, and probably the most difficult audience group as well. We did not attract young audiences, and that was, well, one of the highlights. Young people are not downloading this app and playing with it. However, when they come, their experience is highly satisfactory. What have we done? We've adapted this to other environments, for instance, to school settings or to summer holiday camps, and so on. We try to juice out more of the museum through these games. We, of course, want these games to be rigorous, to explain the content and the heritage that we need to show. And we find something that you probably encounter. There is a dilemma between what young people like and what they would be attracted to, and then your values, the values you cannot betray. For instance, here we had a fierce discussions on this topic, futures. For instance, throw venom on the water tanks and then the whole city will be endangered. Well, this is not part of our values, this is not part of our ethos, and therefore we will not play with that. We are more, for instance, interested in climate change, and that's what we included in the games. And for instance, these cartoon aesthetics, we didn't want to make it one of those sinister cartoons. We wanted to make it more light-hearted and full of light, and that's what we did. And then secondly, we were also very lucky and timely. We organized a escape room. We called it Escape Experience. We also had the dilemma of whether we were to lock up people in a room and what room we had, what space we had to lock people up for a long while. At that time, there were escape rooms all over the place, and this was a very successful experience for us. We inaugurated this on a museum night. You know that we are located in Cornellà. We are not in the Barcelona city center where you open up the door and people queue up to get in. We need to do things to attract people, and the museum's night is something that we really take as an opportunity to attract people to come to our museum. So we organized this escape room with the storytelling. We called it Escape Experience. It was a race around the clock, against the clock, and there were some games and some enigmas that you had to solve in the shortest possible time. The actors interact with the audience as well. The idea is not that this is a reenactment or anything of the sort, but rather actors appear and they have to well, you find them as you go along, you find them in the garden, and by talking to these actors who are living in a different period, they propose challenges or they send you to different locations to sort out some issues and some dilemmas. And then there's people are locked up in a tank, in a deposit where we can put together up to 400 people, and that's the final scene that you see there. And as this was so successful, we decided to try a different experience, a game around the whole museum, and the playing board is the museum. We called it Water and Roll. You need to imagine this as if this was a TV contest. You've seen that part of our values include the idea of cooperation, and this, of course, trickles down to many different facets of our activity, and we're trying to focus on collaborating and not so much competing whenever we think about the games we want to offer. We establish a number of challenges. You are challenging yourself. You need to play as a team. You should not be playing on your own, and in this case the final game was inside this huge deposit, that huge room. You see people put up their hands, they shout and they talk to each other. All the teams were here together, and all these teams, to try and solve their own challenge, they needed answers from other teams. So that was the idea of enhancing cooperation, which is essential for us, and to well, move away from the traditional idea of competition. Of course, playing is intrinsic to human nature and not only to children, and that's what we were trying to to promote and to build on. This year, still with the same idea, we played Cluedo. Cluedo is a typical game, is the assassin, the murderer in the house. We did that with and finding out who the murderer is, and you have actors, you meet actors around there, and you have to interact with them. Every time you meet them up, they try to fool you so that you go elsewhere and not where you should be going, and you try to solve an issue, and this is a phone number, and you need to play that. You're always competing against yourself. There is no winner. We never give any awards, and you have to be up to your own challenge in this Cluedo or Clue game. And one of the shortcomings we have with this kind of activities is that these are large format activities. They include actors, and that of course has a cost. And well, the problem for us is how can we make this scalable? How can we expand this initiative? But of course we can't do this every week. It has a big cost. So we've turned that into something that we offer in the summer for school holiday camps. And we have some boxes, some cubes where words and the dialogue with actors is in those cubes. So actors are not present, but we, in a way, are repeating the same activity for as many times as we wish without the need of actors, because what they have to say is in that cube, in those cubes, sorry. Museums are also full of games and gaming experiences in their permanent exhibitions, and we took two examples of one exhibition that we had co-organized with La Caixa. It was a traveling exhibition, and when it was dismantled, we kept this game. This is a challenge. Imagine you have a breakdown in a given point in the water grid of the city. How would you isolate the breakdown to reduce the number of people affected? Or a sort of a sim city where you become the water manager. Where would you collect water? How would you store it? How would you treat it and make it drinkable? How would you sanitize it, and so on? When we all want water at the same time, how would you distribute it, and so on? I was very quick explaining what we do, but if you want to have further details, please just ask questions now or whenever. Thank you.
Com que anem fatalíssims de temps, anirem superràpid.
Really late.
¿Cómo gestionáis el almacenamiento de los datos capturados y de quién es la propiedad?
How do you manage the assets, and with what criteria you use to decide what items or artifacts you want to digitize? Yeah, we have a triple system. We upload the data to Sketchfab, and then they can be downloaded by any citizen or any organization. So we scatter. I mean, that's part of our strategy. We scatter the data so that they can reach as many computers as possible so that it's not lost. Then in Florida, we have several safety boxes, anti-everything, so they would resist everything. They're made of concrete, etc., you name it. And we give copies of all the data to each of the cultural organizations with whom we work. Museums, country, organizations, regions. Concerning the criteria, selection criteria, we usually, listen to the requests coming from different authorities or organizations. So we receive proposals. We requests of help, like we would like to have you on board, help us do this or that, and we take care of this. And when we detect some endangered piece of heritage or some element that we think should be digitized, we also are proactive. And then another question was, the data. The data are open. They're provided in open code, open license, Creative Commons, so that everyone can use them. And that's also on Sketchfab. And the purpose is to follow the recommendations of 2011 European Commission about accessibility and digitization of cultural heritage that was published by the Commission 2011, saying that that's the path to follow. And by the way, not many European cultural institutions are doing so, despite the recommendation of the EC. Sonia, 2 questions for you. Have you involved the youth in the design of the activities? If the answer is no, have you considered it? Second question, do you think that these activities help you diversify your audiences that then come to see the permanent exhibition, or is it's a different profile of public? The young people, well, we have not always involved them. We are listening first to our environment in order to develop these activities. In particular, we have not involved the youth. And we heard it before, what we try to do is to do small pilot tests, pilot programs with the specific group of people before the final version. So we don't involve them from the beginning. Probably we should, but we haven't done it. So we do a real test, a pilot test, but for real. I mean, with audience that might be a potential visitor before we close the final version. And what was the second question, sorry? Does this help diversify your audiences? Yes, I wanted to explain this, but I didn't have the time. We always say that we want to go after the young audiences and reach them. And one of the things that some people take for granted, maybe it's because our profile of museum, it's the fact that we are required to be inclusive, social impact, these sorts of projects. And there's one thing that we like very much about these activities, which is often we think of an activity for an audience, but since we have gamification in mind and we want teams, sometimes the teams are very rich and diverse. Sometimes it's a young audience, sometimes families with parents and kids, or strange teams or people who just show up and just sign up for a team. So yes, this helps diversify the audience, and it helps us do something, because we always target things. Oh, this is for this audience. This is going to be aimed at this other audience. But we are required to be a museum for everybody, a general museum. So you may think of your targets, but with these activities that are multi-audience, we can be more equitable in the sense that we eliminate some barriers and then everybody can do exactly the same activity. Why not? It's not just for you, for this profile, for this target audience. Everybody can be involved, included. That's the idea of being inclusive. We need to have things, activities for everybody, just the same. Very difficult, and we found this. We haven't sought it, but we found it. That's what we thought. Eric.
Chips, do you know who is behind this avatar? Who? I think that next time we need to contact Tiger Chips.
No, I still have no idea of who he or she is, which is kind of cool, actually, in a way.
Ok. En general pregunten d'on traieu els beneficis, com pagueu, o sigui, quin és el model de negoci que teniu. Jo suposo que sou fundacions o...
Organization, are you a foundation? The business model, you ask? We don't have a business model because we are a non-profit organization and it's philanthropic, so no business, no business in our case, no revenue. In our case, we are a foundation, and we belong to the water supply company of Barcelona, and all the resources, all the money comes from the water company Barcelona. We've had a donation so far from the company, the water company, and we administer these money. They give us these funds, and then at our criteria, we do what we can with this amount, and now they are asking to change, rethink the business model, if you want to call it like that, because they're saying, yes, that's all fine, but you need to broaden your audience. I'm sure this rings a bell, and they're telling us, the water treatment company is asking from us to increase our revenue. So that's our challenge that we have on our plate now. They were happy, we were happy with the numbers so far, with the business model that we had so far, and now they're being more demanding. So we are thinking of activities, considering things that hopefully at least generate the same amount of revenue, and we can get more profit to reuse them, this money as well.
Gràcies, thank you. Vinga, va, l'última taula.
Final panel, thanks.
Ara sí, Jordi.
Now it is your turn, Jordi. Let me give you a hand. Jordi Sellas, Executive Director at l'Ideal. Well, being one of the last speakers requires maybe a little bit more energy, just to cheer people up. Let me say that out of what's been said today, it's not that we're against this current, but we heard about first know your message and then find the language and the shape and the form and the support. It's the other way around in our case. We start with the shape and the format and the support, and then we go after the message. L'Ideal is a 100% privately funded project, and the company was born 2.5 years ago. 3 years ago, I should say. The idea was to create augmented reality and virtual reality experiences, to explore new technologies, because we are convinced of the fact that these will break this rectangle ever since the Lumière invented cinema, rectangular format for the movies, when TV was born, again, rectangular format, so audiovisual moving image, massively in general, we've always seen and understood in a rectangular way over 100 years. And of course, virtual reality exists for quite some time now, but these years, the coming years will be years of immersion, so VR, AR, and whatever the future holds will become more and more popular to limits, to extents that we wouldn't have imagined, like mobile telephony or the smartphone appearance, 2006, 2007, that generated this leap that we have now in our pockets, everybody. So we wanted to take this idea to the world of heritage. So we took our suitcase and a series of ideas and models and projects that we put into our suitcase, pilot tests, well, some chair that we created, incorporated latest generation VR goggles, because we thought that many museums and expo places would be interested maybe in incorporating immersive content. So for a few months, we came in contact with museum directors, people that run spaces related to heritage, and we explained our idea, and the answer was always the same. They said, oh, that's all fine, very interesting, I'm sure that this is going to be the future, but we don't have the resources to possibly fund immersive experiences in our place. And if we had the resources, well, maybe we wouldn't use them for this, because maybe our priorities are different right now. So that was the answer. And then we prepared a small project for the the La Scala Opera Theatre in Milano to broaden the experience when visiting the museum at the Opera Theatre in Milano. It's a small museum, but visitors that want to go there just visit the place rather than paying a ticket for the opera. Maybe they don't like the opera, but we just want to see the play, so they have this experience with the VR goggles, and they could at least get closer to the experience. So what is it like to go to the opera? And we were convinced of the fact that the market maybe was not the right one, but the idea is clearly good, so we will develop our own space. We'll fund our own institution, and we'll start from scratch, and we will fight for this because we clearly believe that that's the way to go. So, trying to find a place, walking along the city, we found this place called Ideal. It's a center that opened only last week. It's a digital art center with a function that covers broadcast, exhibition. It's a test lab, not just in terms of content or storytelling, not just in terms of being interactive with the tools, but technology itself, the volume of the audience. Sometimes this is an issue when testing these technologies with large audiences. So I said first format, then content. That's been our experience, and then the content is this triangle: science, arts, and technology. So it's wide enough so we can tackle it from different angles, and I'll explain this. The place is a cinema. It's a cinema theater, 2,000 seats. It used to have one of the largest cinema theaters in the city. It's in a humble place in Barcelona, in a district called Pobla Nou. At the time, that was a monster, huge place. Somo Rostro was right opposite, and the beach was there. It was an industrial neighborhood with workers, their families inhabiting the place, and that's how many neighbors precisely found out about the audiovisual and movies, first black and white, then color, then CinemaScope, and then in the 80s it became a TV set. Maybe it rings a bell for some of you, maybe it doesn't ring a bell, depending on how old you are, but these are mythical programs that were broadcast here at the Catalan TV channel. Here are the titles of some of the shows that were broadcast, that were shot live in this TV set, and sitcoms and comedy shows and parody shows. So for many years, since 1917 till the 80s, there were lots of audiovisual content exhibited and broadcasted there, and until 2012, when it was closed, it still was used as a TV set. We, of course, respect the name, the original name, and we like it very much because it's called Ideal. Some people in the district call it the slippery place because apparently it was a skating pavement in the past, a ring, and many people used to roller skate that place, and some people still call it the slippery place. But anyway, the name is Ideal. So production of audiovisual content, and remember that we just opened last week, Thursday last week. Expos, exhibition, pedagogy. We have specific programs concerning the content. and especially art, science, technology in the field of audiovisual. So it's a center of creation, research agreements with the Pompeu Fabra University, the Technical University, and we are a new kid on the block in the district in this case, with other organizations that are working on technology, storytelling, and they're developing their own immersive storytelling content. This is a space where events will take place and live performances, because immersive means a lot when it comes to live shows. So this really works for us. And the community, because we have an agreement with the health care park that's called MAR. We have an agreement with them, and we will start with mental health. We will work with several groups, youngsters and kids of this area in the city, San Martí and Poblenou. We have this first exhibition about Monet and the Impressionists. This is the large hall, the main hall, 1,000 square meters, full of screens, and it's the biggest screen we have in Catalonia. These are screens. Maybe you've seen L'Atelier des Lumières, and they project onto building walls. So we've installed cinema screens in an old cinema theater. So it's a projection or a broadcasting onto cinema screens, just like we've done with the floor. That is also a screen. So in this main hall, right now, we are exhibiting this immersive experience about Monet and the Impressionists. We have a VR room, what we call the playground. This is one challenge because we have now 30 stations, Oculus Rift, working 6 days every week, non-stop. It's a huge challenge. It's not just about selling tickets to pay the rent and not be doomed to shut down. It's, of course, a challenge. We want the public to come and buy the tickets, otherwise we will have to just put an end to the whole adventure. Of course, it's a business, and any business has its risks, but technology-wise also, it's a challenge because 30 stations, individual Oculus Rift S, 30 of them working with such intensity, as is the case since last week. It's been working, full-time, non-stop, the weekend, and if you've tried it, you know that not all the machines are ready to do this, the goggles, the cell phone, and otherwise it's a simpler version of the Oculus, or they get warmed up and then the battery is dead. Technological changes that we also need to overcome and that are part of our adventure. This is our first exhibition, as I said, Claude Monet, Impressionism is the concept, and the stud from this triangle, arts and science and technology. So it's not about Monet from the point of view of his work and the life of the painter. No, it's the Impressionist and Impressionism as a group of artists that faced a technological revolution linked to picture, then moving images, the theories of light, the theories of color, developed all along the 20th century, and they responded with their art, classical art in this case, painting, and that's how they tackled they faced their technological challenges. If you come and see, you'll realize how they responded to the technological innovations of their time with their work through painting. So we have the main hall again with this immersive projection, 35-minute long, co-production with a Belgian studio. It's called 30 Monitor, and a company called Exhibition Hub, and a 10-minute experience, VR experience, where you literally walk through his paintings. 100% digital image, painted directly, the tools painted on immersive virtual reality sets. So this has been painted by artists. And this is the main exhibition for the general public. This past weekend, we've seen that not many people is acquainted with VR. So we've had 1,500 people coming to see and try VR for the first time. So very interesting. Everybody's seen a mapping projection or light box. This room has characteristics that are spectacular, and people just say things like, wow, I never thought one could have this experience. I don't really know what's going on. It's not very interactive, and that's our base camp. So first level, and then the next exhibitions will scale up, hopefully, and we'll climb up one more step the ladder at a time. In parallel, Ideal has its programming, night programming, together with the Mira festival, reference, very powerful one here in Catalonia. So this opens next week. We'll start with the night events next week. So it's a big light box. You can have one type of program in the morning, something totally different by night. You just change the content on the screen, change the content on the goggle, and it's a different story. And we'll start with this study in Turkey called OACH. They're doing lots of things, and they have this concept, poetic AI. Poetic AI is the title. Poetic artificial intelligence. So how they transfer this to this light beams strategy. And you're welcome next week if you want to join us and try. What else? This is for the large audience. It's 2,000 square meters. So we have an area on the first floor. On the first floor, a 300 square meter space, and we will use it as a workshop, as an atelier for artists from all over the world, and we will welcome students also, so that all together we can work like having artists in residence, and in the future we can collaborate and work with great guarantees in terms of quality of the product and in terms of technique and technology, and use all those tools that have to do with immersive storytelling. Thank you.
Ja, els últims.
Yeah, you're the very last ones. But don't leave. All these things are very interesting. Now that Lourdes is not here, I can speak a little bit better. Ana Castellano, she's the director of the Pedralbes Monastery Museum, and Albert Burzón, who's the creative manager of Burzón Commerce. Many of the things that you've seen before have been done by them. Ullastret, Ull Mapping, and the Charles the Great castle. They wanted to make this known to all of you because they have been, it's their brainchildren. So thank you very much for being here. You are the last ones. You've been very patient to stay until very late, so thank you for staying. First of all, I would like to thank the Catalan Heritage Agency for having asked us to participate in this seminar and to submit to all of you, to share with you this project done in the Pedralbes Monastery. This will be presented to the audience, publicly presented in about a month. So we're all a bit nervous here because we should be working hard on it, because there are always last-minute details that need to be sorted out. So what we will do now is to offer you a brief idea of what this is. We still need a little bit more to finish developing the project. The project is called Behind the Walls of the Monastery, 700 years of history in the feminine
genre, in the feminine gender. This is the name we've given to the project because I think it's more commercial or more sexier, and it explains perfectly well what we would like to do with this project. But as I say, the title was initially much more academic, Pedralbes Monastery through history. So, as you can see here, this is a project with virtual restitution of the historical architectural changes in Pedralbes Monastery. This project started many years ago. It's a long-term project, but at the same time it's wide-reaching, and it intends to be highly rigorous, and I think we have managed to achieve that. So whenever we have heard that projects need to have content behind, I think that's what our starting point really was. So this is a project that dates back to a number of years when these technologies were not properly developed. It was conceived as a research project to start with. I guess many of you know about the monastery of Pedralbes. In case you don't know much about it, it is a landmark building in Catalan Gothic art. It has reached our current days basically intact, so it was not an idea of dig out the remains, but rather to do it the other way around. We have the current building, and the idea was to try and deconstruct it and then to build it up, rebuild it again phase by phase. Once we have removed everything that was built after the initial construction and was removed, so we had to do that based on different sources of information, and this is the result of a very long research project. That's how it was devised, and it was based in the research and the study of documents preserved in the monastery archives and in other archives too. We started working on an architectural historical study on the building done by another company, Velplus SL, and a 3D digital development done by Ruhr Arc. This was not it was led by the monastery, but not done only by the monastery. This was a research project headed by the monastery, but besides the outside companies, we also had the support of the Heritage Department of the Catalan government, as well as the Systems Department and the Institute of Culture to develop the different parts of the project. Let me show you the evolution a little bit, and Albert Bourthon will tell you more about the innovation part, but I wanted to tell you about the inception of this project and how it had evolved. These are some drawings. This was the 2D proposal we offered initially. Once we put together the results we found in the documents plus the study of the building itself. Here you have the 4 stories of the building, and in different colors we see the different stages, and after studying we realized that they belonged to different periods, historical periods. We were able to establish some phases. Here you see them on the screen. These were our work. Well, I'm showing you the working documents. And here we started to build the 3D models, and these first 3D models were very architectural. So once we had the 3D architectural asset, a number of questions arose, and this is what we had. This was done by Ruhr Arc, which is basically an architect who is a specialist in this, and here's another stage. The monastery is already consolidated there. The early transformations, and I'm showing you this so that you could see that we could match the documents we had of that plan of the monastery, as well as engravings and photographs from the late 19th century and the current monastery. All of this information was put together, and we were seeing the doubts that were coming up as we were raising and drawing the plans. Which were the goals of this project? Of course, to do some research, and as we moved forward, we realized that we wanted to share with the scientific community, with the scholars, all of these conclusions, and we also wanted to disseminate it in a more generalized way and make them accessible. Make them accessible to different audience. Accessibility is one of the purposes and one of the goals of the Institute of Culture and all of their museums. How could we do that? Through digital resources. That was the best way to do that, and to have a scientific and dissemination approach. We are part of the Institute of Research on Medieval Culture, organized by the University of Barcelona, and that's why the scientific rigor had to be part and parcel of the project. We also wanted to raise the profile of historical and architectural knowledge and to explain everything through 3D models. What did digital resources offer? These resources could update the monastery. Many people are still impressed by this medieval religious building, and we wanted to bring down those barriers that many people found when approaching the monastery, to explain what role it had in the modern Barcelona city, and that's why we created some interactive capsules, some interactive pills, which enhanced some of the activities and workshops that were carried out in different areas in the monastery, and to entice users and viewers to come and work with us. How could we shape this digital resource? Well, Albert will tell you more about that. After so many years studying this, we had to give it a certain shape and to present it in one way or the other. So we discussed with them. There is plenty of documents and photographs. We have lots and lots of documents and 3D things that we can explain. So we put everything together so that it would be easier to understand, so that it would be more digestible for people. So we decided to do an interactive documentary through a web portal, putting everything together. All the documents, all the information, all the 3D data we had. And we also built on the technical 3Ds that showed the different stages of the monastery throughout the years. We used the famous sketch fab and uploaded objects, 3D objects, of monuments that did not exist anymore, because we were talking about scanning things and so on, but now here we're building things that do not exist any longer. They have disappeared, or they have been changed over the centuries. And then we had the restitution, or the reconstruction of the monastery, the 15th century monastery, which was at, the heyday for that monastery. And here we also have the reconstruction of what could be shown doing a sensorial and architectural reconstruction, because we do have resources for the architectural reconstruction. Sorry, my apologies. Well, let me see if I can focus on this. 3D reconstruction. What can we draw out of that 3D reconstruction? Plenty of information, not only the final image, the render. We can also use video clips, virtual reality, and what we've done in our studio is to create a serious game, this video game, which is quite powerful from a graphics point of view, and we've always worked on the same basis with the support of experts. We make it nice, we provide ideas, we explain things, but in any case it's experts' voices that we are showing in our games. And this has been wrapped up in an exhibition that will be staged as of November. Let me show you just a few hints of what this is going to be. This is the portal for the interactive documentary. In the bottom you see the 7 stages that define the evolution of that monastery. Every stage has a side list with the different spaces and halls and rooms and how they evolved and all the information on that stage. It ranges from the 14th century up to today. 14th, 15th, 16th, 18th, and so on. So what were we saying about the sketch fab 3D models? This is a kind of infographics objects. If we are to add textures and so on, here we only, well, here don't only have the monastery, we also have some of the rooms, and we've rebuilt architecture as it evolved through the centuries. And this is not only the 3D you can scan, but you can also upload other things to Sketchfab, other things that are not necessarily photos or scans. This is the render of the 15th century monastery. We have recreated the cloister, the kitchen, the infirmary, and St. Michael's Chapel. With this basic 3D we were given, we rebuilt it again with a highly consolidated architectural basis, using different 3D and visual resources. We went from the biggest to the smallest details with the furniture and the pottery that existed there, and for those things that did not exist, we have great experts saying, well, this kind of stool could not be there because that did not appear until the 16th century, so use this other kind of stool. Here we have a reconstruction of the pottery, and many of these are existing pottery pieces, and here we have a small detail. We are not going to show you everything, of course we won't. We will just show you some hints. Oh my God, only 2 minutes. This is the evolution of what we've seen so far with different textures and so on. This is the kitchen, and here we have everything put together. Architecture plus the attrezzo, the prompts. And that's basically it. Let me go back. Because what have we done here with this 3D? We have been able to obtain images that could be used in the social media, which had visual features that people could realize that this is 15th century material, because we have all seen 15th century films and decors. No, everything that appears in here is rigorously proved and scientifically supported. And so we can make video clips for the social media or to generate audiovisual productions for the exhibition, for instance. This one, I cannot reveal any further, but it's very cool. VR in the exhibition will be able to walk around those rooms and see what we would have seen from our point of view in St. Michael's Chapel, the infirmary, the kitchen, and so on. So you can be in there. Up to this level, it was always very clear to us that we don't want to show things. We've seen plenty of VR where there are no shadows and other things. So here we need a bigger quality, a higher quality. And this requires software that will, and hardware that will support this. And this can only be seen at the monastery. They will have the hardware to be able to watch this. And about serious games, this is going to be a downloadable video game, which will evolve in the different rooms. The idea of that game is not to start killing nuns, No, that's not the purpose of the thing, but rather to try and learn about what they do in the infirmary, for instance, how they cured people in the 15th or 16th century when they had a toothache or when they had
o com es cuinava o quins tipus de menjar es feia.
the menses pain, and how they cooked and so on. And that's all I can say, not much more than that. Maybe we could relax a little bit. We're so late, so off the schedule. So let's relax. Questions. People are very concerned about understanding what is going to happen in 2019. What's coming after Monet, after the Monet exhibition at Ideal. I don't know if I made myself understood because, well, 15 minutes are not too long. Our venue is a lab. We are taking all the risks and we want to afford to make mistakes and learn. Simply to refurbishing a building that was abandoned 5 years ago, not only refurbishing it, but transforming it into what it has become today with a private, humble initiative is a huge effort. Same thing as well, adapting the facilities and making them work as they will. This is a huge effort. So I'm not here to explain that we have the best opportunity in the universe. No, we have a base camp. This is level 0, 101, and we need to scale this project and to learn as we go along with the community, developing technologies, and with the artistic community, which is learning about the language of immersion. Monet is going to be there until February, and it is combined with other night events. Mira is one, but then we will see things from the OFF Festival and other cultural audiovisual events that will take place in Barcelona. So it will have different programs, and throughout the year we will have 3 large exhibitions, Monet style. We're working on the 2 upcoming ones. One will be fully produced by us. Sorry, I cannot reveal any longer. And next autumn it will be our own production and not a co-production as the current one. And we are looking at different immersive proposals which are really good, and they showed their interest in the facility, and we will choose the one that suits better for us, combining art, sciences and technology, which is a triangle we're focusing our attention on. People are asking where they should send their CV to try and work. So work for you, Jordi, at idealbarcelona.com. Congratulations. And besides this physical space, do you intend to do things in the digital world as well? Do you have a digital presence as well? No. This is an experiential space on site, and that's what we really want. It's a site-specific thing. In the 20s, we will have these experiences at home when the technology becomes more affordable and less focused on tech geeks and rather more mainstream as smartphones are nowadays. And that's why we want to work site-specifically. Technologies require a space, a location, an ecosystem which is highly controlled to make it a pleasurable experience. And if you want to have a space that is similar to other places, such as, Team Lab, Martech House, and many other places where they have made huge millionary investments, well, there's a long road to travel. That's why we are site-specific. Wait a second. I'm going to ask all the questions to you first. We are also asking, maybe suggesting rather than asking, if you're going to have any immersive experience focused on Catalan heritage. The answer is yes. That's all I can say about it. Of course, it makes sense because we are seeing an ecosystem of venues which are similar to Ideal. There is another one opening up in Brussels in December, another one in Rome, others in Montreal. We will also be working in something in parallel, Arctic House too. So we are trying to build this small network of facilities which could jointly produce or at least jointly fund contents that can travel further away. So the idea is that Catalonia should generate contents that have to do with their own heritage and which could travel and go elsewhere and be used there. Anna, your turn.
Number of visitors of the monastery, and are you thinking that maybe this project can help increase the number? 75,000, 80,000. Last year we did an exhibition that really was very successful about a Jewish painter, Charlotte Salomon, and then well, many people came to know about us, even if we have our loyal audience. And then we have three axes: women, issues, spirituality, and heritage. These are the three pillars. So, well, since we've positioned ourselves along these three axes, we're having more and more public coming to visit. And are we thinking of increasing the numbers? Well, we didn't do this for this particular goal, to increase the number of visitors. There's an age range that is reluctant, the youth. They're used to these technologies, so if you offer an explanation based on the technologies, maybe they come, but maybe Albert can explain this better, but the idea is to be a platform so that people can know about us from home, at least start from home, and then they might decide to come and visit the monastery in reality, so that the experience is more intense. But we explain the space, so that's the idea. Last chance. Any question? No more questions. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to all the speakers. Now I should actually introduce myself and give the floor to myself, which is a bit odd. But anyway, because I'm supposed to close the session, close the day, and apart from being the master of ceremonies, the MC, I was asked to share the conclusions. And then they said, no, maybe not conclusions, but like an outside look. This seminar opened hours ago, and well, all of you are still here, which is good. José Luis de Vicente started this morning saying that he didn't come from the world of heritage, and he said, I don't know if I come from the future of the heritage of the future. Well, I don't come from this realm myself. I come from a different discipline, and that's why I was asked to close the day, because from from the outside, I want to share with you what really struck me about everything that has been mentioned today. I have not been writing on my iPad all day long. I have my notes, and I don't have the time. I haven't had the time to organize these ideas. I'm a bit chaotic, so at least I hope I can keep it short, if not orderly. But let me mention some of the things that shocked me, because first I think there were two types of presentations, because some were more focused on tools or instruments or techniques. Probably you know what colorimetry means. I personally don't, so I'm not going to enter into the details. You mentioned formats, etc. There was another part, more inspirational, talking about the mixes and the experiences and what heritage can do to be more interesting or to reach out to more people. It's not either or, but and really, and reach more people, and help us become who we are and preserve what help us be what we are, and how technology can contribute. Jose Luis said something that then he repeated and others repeated, because first he said that not everything is linked to technology. We heard it from the water company museum. We can do innovation without technology as well. Jose Luis talked about immersion and immersiveness, he said, and he said that that was not linked to a specific technology. Maybe we should not say new technologies anymore, because these are not new technologies, and virtual reality is old enough, so it's not new at all. And being immersed in an experience, this is something that probably is a century old. And when Jordi referred to the 1920s, it's like it's a bit scary. Well, anyway, I'm a bit chaotic again. I'm beating about the bush. Back on track. He was discussing the gaze, the perspective, breaking the barrier, like I'm here on the stage, you are there sitting down looking at me, and this barrier and this distance between heritage or cultural reality and the viewer, that needs to be broken. In theater, they speak of the fourth wall. That was a revolution, because they wanted to, tear down, collapse this fourth wall and involve the viewers. And I think that the new technologies should help us reflect about this, and how from the realm of heritage we can also help, tear down this supposed fourth wall. We need to have a discourse, a thread, storytelling. And let me say something that I tell people that come with projects, digital culture projects. I say to them, you need to explain the project. Remember, it's Christmas Day. Imagine it's Christmas Day and your granny says, what are you working on? And you need to tell your grandma what you're doing. And if your grandma doesn't get it, you have a problem. It's not granny's problem. It's not Aunt Rosie's problem. It's your way of explaining. People don't get it. So we need to be aware of this, and we need to be able to explain things differently. We need storytelling, a common thread, because then experts, people who are not experts, get lost. And we don't want to fall into trivialization, or maybe we do, but it's not about trivializing anything. It's about involving people. And you've made great efforts, huge efforts, not just in terms of money, but time, enthusiasm, and the willingness to move forward. So we should put an end to this idea, technology and the digital, it's like Virgin Mary appearing, and it's like the solution for everything. So whatever doesn't have to be digital, don't make it digital. We don't need to do technology always. That's not the issue. The question need not be, what's the coolest thing? What's the latest thing that has been invented? No, we need to be clear as to what our goal is. What is our goal? And then, what is it we need to do? If we need to go analogical, it's okay. Not a problem. If it's an experience, it has to be digital. Okay, let's make it digital. Otherwise, let's not be just amazed by this cool things. Jose Luis also talked about the orchestra and being part of the music band, and he referred to an artist that I can't pronounce his name. I was there once, and it's interesting how to explain one thing from different perspectives, because you could spend there 4 hours easily listening to the same concert, following it on 9 different screens, and you know that, that's the gentleman here, that then is over there. So it's a bit like Ferran Adrià, the cook. It's an experience that's longer, and it's taken from different angles, and you are stepping outside of yourself, which is interesting. Tim mentioned testing before making a decision, and involving the audiences, and involving, stepping out of our circle of comfort, zone of comfort, that sometimes makes us believe what's normal and what's not, and that's not the thing. Then learning from our mistakes. So trial and error, trial and failure. What is the problem? I like people who says, oh, that was an idea, it was wonderful, but it didn't quite work. No problem. We'll improve. We'll get better. If we don't take any risks, we will be like photocopying the same thing over and over again. Bring in people from other industries. Tim Powell said this, but Jan also mentioned it from Sketchfab. One thing that you do with a goal, with a specific purpose, may be combined with other things, because you may have your monastery or whatever, and then decide, now I have the kitchen and the monastery and the nuns and you name it, then I'm going to organize a reenactment, an animated, we're going to sell this to Netflix. Let's go pitch in front of Netflix this idea, animation story going on in the different rooms in the monastery. So we have a heritage that goes beyond heritage, which is the digitized heritage, and that can be pitched elsewhere. Just like, when I talk about this, I always say that you have the story, and it's your case. You have the story, and you have the visual part of it, which is not easy to find. So it's a gift that you have, and then we need to go transmedia and transcend the traditional channels, breaking the rules of heritage and people being allowed to taking pictures. I loved this. In some places it's not possible, but why not? I wonder. In general, we have the feelings that everything is forbidden or banned, and this palace, I will, and it's been fantastic. And the VR chat, fantastic. It's not even your project anymore. You have some Japanese freaks organizing their thing. You don't even know who they are. Amazing. And this guy or woman is there creating on top of your creation. Unbelievable. So rather than being a control freak, it's the opposite. It's like, let it go. And it reaches places that are unbelievable, like here today. A palace in Sweden. We're talking about it today here in La Pedrera, Barcelona. Fortunately, I'd never heard of this place in Stockholm. The frontiers between physical space and digital space is being blurred. And I would like to explain two experiences, very recommendable. There's Gilles Jovin, the choreographer. He's from Switzerland. Similar to what we saw before with the backpack, with the virtual reality. You are an avatar. I mean, it's an impossible avatar. Never, ever try to work on pro-human avatars, because if you try to look like a human being, it's actually a zombie, so nothing like it. So if you work on an avatar, go more for a cartoon style, end of the aside. Now, the choreographer, Gilles Jovin, I wish he comes back to Barcelona. Now, many people went to see his show, and there's a project called The Machine to Be Another, born in the Pompeu Fabra University, I think she said. It's a virtual reality project. You see in a world that it's not your own, and in your virtual world somebody comes and touches you, and they literally touch you. And they started talking about empathy underlying this project. So it's called The Machine to Be Another by IDFA. It's digital world, and wouldn't it be good for a while to forget about the cell phone and enjoy reality? Sometimes it's not the opposite. you know. Tim Powell also asked who occupies public digital spaces, that huge inflatable dock right in the middle of Central Park. Who is to take those places? Anybody could place in front of a monastery an inflatable monster. Who's entitled to this space? I think that question is interesting. We should think about it. Technology should solve problems, not create problems. So again, let's not go for technology if there's no need to. And the visual part of the story is not the only thing, because other senses have their importance, and this is something that also you need to incorporate. I think sound, binaural experiences, smells in some of the projects that you shared. I was wondering, smell could be added there easily, and it might be interesting to see what smell would go with that experience. So trivializing the World Museum is dangerous, because anything can be referred to as a museum, and that is dangerous, I think. A container of experiences, a place to take selfies. Well, dangerous, so we need to be cautious. What else? What else? Don't have much time left. 3D, and then technology to help. Is there to help the endangered heritage? You really should highlight and promote this. When Notre Dame burned, there was a video game that the company offered to help with the restoration. You could download this for free for some time. I really enjoyed this project, Monument Monitor, a crowdsourcing, very easy to do, very simple to detect the monuments that are not in the right status. You know, posts on Twitter, Instagram, just a hashtag alerting, like warning, there's a problem there, graffiti has been painted, there's been vandalism there, here and there. So to use social networks to warn and to have the monument under control and duly monitored, especially in remote areas. And we should talk much more about AI. Linda touched upon the issue, but artificial intelligence will no doubt end up getting farther than we think. That I'm coming to an end. Yes, don't worry. That was very good. Enthusiasm, explosion, investment, lack of maintenance. That timeline is really very powerful. Oh, we're going to do something super cool. Come join us. Do we have the money? Yes, we do. Blah, blah, blah. Ball starts rolling and things turn obsolete. Enthusiasm also needs to be fed and preserved, especially when it comes to maintenance.
You talked a lot about 3D, about training in this sector. I would also like to ask everybody, when talking about digital projects, not to think only about children, because this is something that I rattle about all the time. If we need to wait for children to learn and save our lives, I'll be dead already by then. So I wish it were people from our generation, your generation, who would learn about the digital world, and I would like everyone to be able to learn to scan 3D and to understand what it is, because when a lady who's 10 years younger than me and says that she's unable to download WhatsApp on the phone, I think that we have an issue there. Probably it's the woman's child who has done something with their phone. So that's why I was asking, when I was asking about families, I was thinking about families in the wider meaning of the world. As grandparents start to control these things and to master these things, we'll be better off. And there's a very wise man who's Carlos García Pañella, who created the first video game at the University of Barcelona. I heard him, he's the first person I heard talking about memorable experiences, and for him this is like a mantra. It is important to have memorable experiences whenever you go anywhere.
being able to say that I learned, I was interested, this is part of me. Well, we are who we are, we're all here. Why? And why are we here? Because we have experienced memorable things. So whatever you do, make it memorable. This is an extremely good purpose. All these projects you're presenting here today, which were extremely interesting, besides them being interesting, besides research behind them, beyond having this interesting dossier on the website, make them memorable for the people who are here. And the last two comments I would like to make are, I think what's most important is to be aware of what's going on. We need to be up to date with, we need to be updated with what's going on. People who work in stage arts, people who are in the world of culture, you can do anything with your stage language. You can place a person dressed in white to play phantom, but you need to be aware of the fact that you could have placed a hologram there. So it's your choice, but you need to be aware of what's up there. So I think you're very lucky to have people who have phone numbers, and they are sitting there, Albert Sierra, who's not paying any attention, or Damià, and lots of people around there who could help you. You're not alone in this, and I think it is a privilege to have so many people around that you can call up and who can tell you, well, I don't know the answer to your question, but this gentleman or this lady will know it, or this is a list of companies that do this or that. They know, they have the answers to your questions, and I think that this is extremely, extremely interesting. So I think institutions are not there only to offer subsidies and grants and all these things which you think are so exciting but are extremely boring. We're there to help you make projects that are really well, to help you out. My main key performance indicator is the people I work and I talk to every day, because it's your indicator. So talk to them, take advantage of what they know. What has been presented here this afternoon was extremely interesting. Many of these projects were done here, and we need to be very happy of the journey we're embarked in. And I hope next year we will see even nicer things. And I think that Damià should come up here, and you should give him a round of applause for this fantastic seminar they have organized. Thank you.
Ràpid, perquè tots voleu anar cap a casa.
Very quickly, everyone wants to go home. It should have been the director, but he tried to come, but it was impossible. But this is the result of a collective effort. Albert has a great responsibility in the shaping up of this program. The many Layas, Giselda, Lourdes, Ana Moreno, and many names that I don't want to forget, Marta Antuñano and many others. That's all. I think this year we've had a great seminar. We will have the contents on the website, and we would like to invite you to the next edition. Thank you very much.